Hello, ladies and germs. We are here. Better late than never, I think is the saying, right? Better late than never, but never late is better. We are finally here. We're going to be talking about Uncharted today. The newest video game movie that was released. Interesting. I wasn't really even thinking about going to see this movie, but I was like, why not? I'm not doing much today. I'll go check it out on my Sunday matinee. And, I figured we'd talk about it. So, Uncharted. Yeah, this is another attempt to bring a popular video game franchise to the big screen. This one's directed by Ruben Fleischer, who did Zombieland, Venom, and what else has he done? Zombieland, Venom, Zombieland 2, Spaced Out, and then some other short films and things like that. So 30 minutes or less. Oh, wow. So, yeah. Interesting choice. But Uncharted, this had been rumored for a long time that they were going to do this, make an Uncharted film. Personally, I'm going in completely. I went in completely blind on this because I had never played the Uncharted games. They're actually on the list for the He Don't Game series, so eventually I will be playing them for the first time. But yeah, I'd never played Uncharted, so I didn't really have any grasp on the lore or anything like that. I was just going in straight blind. This is not the first video game movie I've had to do that with. Warcraft a couple of years ago. I'd never played World of Warcraft before, so I went and saw that, and I was like, CGI mess. But at least this is not that. This is definitely not that bad. But yeah, since I never played any of the Uncharted games, I don't have a frame of reference in terms of how this should be. But I do know a little bit about the Uncharted games. I know they've made a few of them, and I know, they're basically kind of like an adventure treasure hunt kind of game. So, it kind of was in that sense, if that's really what the games are. And I mean, I don't know, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but from what I've seen, it kind of seems like it's that way. But, if that is the case, which it seems like it is, because I have seen some gameplay and trailers and things and footage, but basically, that's definitely something that could translate better to the big screen than maybe World of Warcraft. So, I mean, I was definitely interested to see what they were going to do with this because, we haven't really gotten a lot of great adventure, treasure hunt, kind of films in a while. The days of Indiana Jones and the Goonies and those kind of films that have kind of came and went, and we had Lara Croft Tomb Raider a couple of years ago with Alicia Vikander, and I saw that in theaters and thought that was okay. So I mean, this was definitely interesting when it was announced, and then obviously Tom Holland was cast as Nathan Drake in this film. Again, I don't know much about the character, but a lot of people have been complaining online that he was too young to play this role, and again, who knows? I know I saw a fan film, or not a fan film, like an independent film. I'd say it's probably better than a fan film, but with Nathan Fillion playing Nathan Drake, which a lot of people thought he should have played it in this film, but maybe he's a little too old now. Who knows? But regardless, you get Holland in this role, and then Mark Wahlberg as Sully. And again, people have been saying that Sully is actually older in the games, which again, I don't know. That's why it's kind of hard for me to review this, but I'm just gonna review it as a film. That's the thing, I guess. That's kind of nice about it, and maybe that's probably why I liked it maybe a little bit more than some of the diehard fans of the game series, because it is definitely maybe it isn't as faithful to that as it should have been, but off the bat, you get the movie cuts into the opening sequence, which is the big money shot you see from the trailer, which is Nathan Drake hanging out of the plane, and so you get that, and basically then it cuts to him flashback as a kid with his brother, and they're sneaking into this I guess museum or something, and then they get caught, and then the brother runs away. Sam, who actually ends up being the big the biggest like emotional draw for Nathan Drake's character throughout the entire film. And the thing I thought was just kind of, and I guess this kind of gets into one of my complaints with the film, is that I wish that the brother Sam had a little bit more to do in this. It seems like, at times, there's not enough emotional weight to that as I think they were hoping for. I guess I'll just talk about spoiler-free thoughts here before I actually get into the dense plot of the movie. Even though I guess spoiled the beginning, but spoiler-free thoughts though. This will be pretty short, but I thought it was okay. I didn't really like the film all that much, but I did think there was definitely a great movie in here. I just think that the movie was too silly. And that's kind of, I guess, my biggest problem with it is it didn't take itself seriously enough. And look, I know I've made complaints in the past where, like I've said, movies, take itself too seriously and it just comes off as bland and melodramatic. And that is the case sometimes with films. But I feel like this film kind of suffered from the opposite of, like, it just gets too silly. And all the none of the jokes land. I don't think there was a single funny joke in this whole film, in my opinion. I mean, that's subjective, but I'm just telling you what I feel. There wasn't really a good joke in this whole movie to me. Some of the action sequences I think are pretty well done. But again, I just think that the whole awe and lore behind this whole story, I feel like could have really used a little bit more fleshing out and explain. Not necessarily even explaining, but just kind of, I wish it was a little bit more immersive. It feels like a movie. This does. And I guess, like, I know that's kind of like a cheap way to complain about it, but, like, it does. It's, it just feels like everything is moving towards a specific place. It doesn't feel authentic, and it doesn't have, like, the weight that I think it could have had, emotionally speaking, because it's just, like, a lot of the times, like, the characters, they just, like, the movie tonally is off, I guess is what I'm trying to say. There's times where these characters make jokes in scenes that are tense, or, like, characters will be arguing and then, like, 30 seconds later they're joking, and then they're back to arguing, and then they're back to joking, and it's like, okay, like, it's like, be consistent. And, like, I'm fine with little jokes and a little levity, and you couldn't help but, since I couldn't necessarily compare this to the actual games itself, since I haven't played them, I tried to compare it almost to, like, Indiana Jones, Goonies, like, these kind of treasure hunt kind of films. And, like, those movies just have, like, great iconic visuals to complement the puzzles that the characters are solving, and the places they go, and the different trap doors and things they unlock. Everything just feels so grandiose, and in this film it just doesn't. It comes off really flat. I mean, like, a lot of, like, the and I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but, like, a lot of the treasure hunt sequences where they're trying to figure out parts of the puzzle and how to get to the next stage and all of that, which I guess kind of plays into why I think this feels more like a movie, is that there just isn't that magic that, Indiana Jones films had, and the Goonies had, and other films like that have. Treasure Island from the 70s. Like, those films have that sense of magic to them that this just really needed, in my opinion. But without getting into too many spoilers, the villain, who is played by Antonio Banderas, he's interesting. Again, I just wish there was a little bit more there. And also, the other villain played by, what's her name? Tati Gabrielle Braddock. Yeah. Wish there was a little bit more with her too. And I'll explain it a little bit when I get into spoilers. But I wish that those two characters just had a little bit more depth, but at least they gave them some screen time. Like, they definitely get screen time. It's just, like, they don't really use it to their advantage, and the reason I say that is because, like, a lot of films, they don't take the time to give their villains the screen time. Like, this easily could have been one of those films where they just kind of throw you in and then you don't really care about the villains. I found myself actually halfway interested in the villains, which, is better than nothing, I suppose. But again, I guess my final spoiler-free thoughts, and then I'll get into the spoiler review. I wasn't too blown away with this. I thought it was okay. A little bit less than okay, honestly. I would say it's a little subpar. And I think it's just because it lacks a lot of the magic, I think, that, these treasure hunt kind of films need. And I guess that's kind of a hard thing to kind of pinpoint on how they could correct it. But I think just visually making these caves and trap doors and things that they open with to help find the treasure, I just wish it had more, I guess I'm trying not to spoil it, but I wish it had more, grandiose to it, visually speaking. A lot of these sets are just kind of bland, and they cheap out with jokes that just don't work. And I'll obviously explain it more when I spoil the movie, but that's all I can really say. My hands are kind of tied. That's why I don't like doing like full on spoiler free reviews, just because you don't really get to actually explain what you did and didn't like about it. So I guess I'll just say, basically, should you see it? I don't know. This probably is one you could skip. Wait till it comes out on VOD, because honestly, like, I saw it in the theater, and it was pretty, I think it's a pretty movie at times, but it lacks that mise en scène, that Indiana Jones and Goonies, and I know I keep bringing those movies up, but like, that's the gold standard for this type of film, or maybe even the Uncharted games had in some regard. I just wish it had more, but I like more grandiose to it in terms of the presentation. But again, I like the story, actually. I think the story is actually kind of interesting. The whole connection to Ferdinand Magellan and all of that. I think that's really interesting, and I'll talk more about that. But I think there is a great film in here, but what we got was kind of a mediocre film, if I'm being completely honest. Wasn't that impressed with it. But that's my spoiler-free thoughts on Uncharted. This is the spoiler warning for anyone that's watching. If you don't care, which, honestly, if you haven't seen the film, just stick around, because honestly, you're not missing too much. But this is the spoiler warning. We're getting into this. So, spoilers. As I mentioned before I got into the spoilers, basically, the film starts out with, young Nathan Drake. Well, actually, it shows him hanging out of the plane and all that, which you see in the trailer. And then young Nathan Drake and his brother Sam, and they're in this place. And basically, what I was kind of getting into before I kind of had to talk about non-spoilers was basically with this whole connection between Sam and Nathan Drake just isn't fulfilling enough. And I think, you can do it in the amount of time that they did it. They just didn't use their time wisely. And I guess that's kind of a big complaint with me with this film, is that just they had everything set up, and they had all the pieces in the places they needed to be. They just couldn't execute anything. There's so many scenes that just don't go anywhere, and this was one of them. Like, they get caught, and then he just decides to run away for no reason and leaves Nathan Drake behind with, a letter, basically, which I thought was kind of silly. And on top of that, it's like, I wish that there was more of a struggle there. With those two characters in the beginning, they're looking in there, and then they get caught in something and they have to run away, or they get stuck and they have to break their way out, or something like that, and they have to work together, and you actually get to see that chemistry in action, because the whole bond between Nathan and his brother is such an integral part of the film, but it just isn't actually fulfilled at all. To the point where, like, Nathan's entire character is predicated upon that, but the problem with it is that he just, you just don't feel that connection the way you probably should, that's just my complaint, I guess. That's kind of what I noticed. But, then Nathan basically, cuts to him, and he's like a bartender in New York City now. And then, he has like a little dialogue with this girl, and pickpockets her bracelet. And another thing, like, the pickpocketing in this film is so OP. Like, the fact that they could just easily pickpocket each other, like, it's so corny, honestly. And I know it just is kind of done as a way to kind of, move the characters into a certain place, but it's just like, ugh. and you see it done like 3 times in like a matter of like 15 minutes. Like you get Nathan stealing the bracelet from the girl. Then you get Sully, who's played by Mark Wahlberg, who shows up and steals steals the bracelet from him, which then forces Nathan to go meet Sully at his place. Like he gives him his business card. And then, what's her name? Chloe, the girl who they meet up with, who has the other key, she ends up stealing their key, pickpockets it. So it's just like the pickpocketing is like ridiculous. It's just so like silly. I don't know if that's a part of the game or what. I mean, if it's a part of the game, maybe, I guess. I don't know, but it just seems silly to me. And, but yeah, not jumping too far ahead, you get the dialogue with him and the girl, and then, and I thought that stuff was okay. I mean, Holland's a charming guy, so he can pull it off. And then, you get Sully, he shows up in the bar, and it's funny how, like, and I guess this is kind of plays into the whole film, is like how Nathan Drake knows how to fight. How is he in such, how does he know how to fight? How does he know everything? It's like none of it's earned, because they jump so far in time that like he's an adult and you don't know why he's so good at fighting, how he's so good with a sword, how he's so good with a hand-to-hand combat. It just, he didn't really pull off the whole, like, he either has to be a full-on novice or he has to be an expert. Like, you can't have both. He kind of had the Rey Skywalker syndrome where, like, he just shows up and is good at everything, and there isn't really anything holding that together, you know what I mean? But yeah, Victor Sully Sullivan recruits him, and basically, pickpockets him and leaves his business card. And then, basically Nathan goes and visits him because he wants the bracelet back for whatever reason. I guess because he wants to go sell it or whatever. So he goes and meets up with Sully. And then that's when, basically, they break down the Ferdinand Magellan thing and basically get to the plot of the film, which is essentially that Ferdinand Magellan, who was a real figure, he's known for sailing across the world. He's the first person to ever do it. And basically, the thing is that they're saying is that he didn't actually do it to sail around the world. First of all, he didn't actually sail across the world, but like on top of that, he didn't actually do it to actually break that record. He did it just to, he did it to get gold, to find gold, that was amassed somewhere. So, with that, basically, our characters have to try and find this giant, $5 billion stash of gold that was hidden 500 years ago. And basically, Ferdinand Magellan's entire operation back then was funded by House of Moncada, and they're basically like rich billionaires that, fund, covert operations, kind of like Illuminati looking kind of guys, I guess. They're, I think the Moncadas are real people, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know exactly the whole history of that, but I know there has been like rich European houses that fund, those that funded a lot of those operations. So, I mean, this is not hard to believe if this is true. And that's why I think it's really kind of an interesting thing. And that's why I wish, because that's a great setup, but it's just like everything around this movie just, it fails. But the story itself is interesting. And usually it's the other way around with me. And that's why it's weird. This is a weird movie in that sense. Cause like, it's almost flip flop my complaints. Cause usually it's like, oh, everything around it is great, but the story's a freaking mess. This is actually like the story makes a lot of sense, but everything else around it is a mess. Including the dialogue, which is inexcusably bad in this film. It's horrible. The dialogue is terrible. Like I said, the jokes are not good. They're not funny. They're not creative. And they waste a lot of time and throw off the tone of this film. But anyway, Nathan says no. He goes home, and then he comes back and basically is like, okay, I guess I'll do it, for my brother. Because basically Sully tells him that he had worked with his brother, and he's like, oh, well, your brother's missing. And he's like, okay, well, I guess I'll do it then, because I want to see my brother. I want to find him. Anyway, so basically, then you find out Antonio Banderas, who plays Santiago Moncada, who is the living relative of the House Moncada who funded Ferdinand Magellan. So basically, he feels like he has a birthright to the gold stash. So he's all balls deep on getting the keys to open up the gold, I guess, because there's 2 keys that are needed to unlock the stash where the gold is. So he basically goes to this auction to buy this thing. Like, first of all, how does the auction house get it? Okay, fair enough. Whatever, who cares? I'm nitpicking. But these kind of things matter in terms of the film. But, basically, our characters go to this thing. Wahlberg and Tom Holland's, Nathan Drake and Sully, they go to this auction house to try and buy this thing. And it's kind of an interesting scene because you get Wahlberg down there, like, trying to bid on this, and he doesn't have the money, but he's just trying to do it to stall, to give Tom Holland enough time to cut the power so he can steal the key and run off with it. And then, it kind of goes with this strange distraction thing, and you get these corny jokes with this guy with a Scottish accent. And like, it's all just like, I'm like, I don't know. It just wasn't all that exciting to me. I'm sorry. But you get that, and Holland like swings off the poles, and and you find what's her name, Braddock, who I was talking about earlier. She's introduced, and she's got like the arm sleeve tat and the weird haircut. She shows up, and basically, off the bat, she's gonna be kind of like the heavy lifter for Banderas' character, and she's kind of like, I guess, the muscle, even though she doesn't have any muscles, but whatever. She basically shows up and tries to steal the key from Mark Wahlberg, who gets his hands on it after Tom Holland creates a distraction. And then obviously Wahlberg ends up running away with it. And then they go to Barcelona, where they go to meet up with Chloe, where we're introduced to the love interest, Chloe, who actually is kind of an interesting character. I actually really liked her character a lot. She kind of brought a lot of complexity to this film that it kind of needed. Chloe is definitely a much better character than Braddock, in my opinion, because she kind of, has definitely, ulterior motives, as you find out. And basically off the bat, you realize you can't trust her. She runs away with her key, like I mentioned, pickpockets them so easily, plot holey. And then you get this little chase sequence throughout Barcelona, which is, whatever. And basically it's just her running and Tom Holland tripping over literally everything in sight. Silly. But yeah, they basically, they're able to bring the keys, and then they have to find out where it is. And Holland's able to easily figure it out. Nathan Drake's easily able to figure it out. And they end up going to this church, and then they go in there, and they have this corny joke about the nuns finding out that they're sneaking into the church, which I guess like kind of covers up the plot hole. Because I would have been like, how come nobody notices that they're breaking into this place and going into these places they probably shouldn't be in? So I mean, they half address it, I guess. It's still kind of a hole, because it's like they still, like, how come they didn't hear anything? Like, it would have been, and honestly, it would have made a good scene if she came down, the nun, and then like Mark Wahlberg had to like subdue her or like tie her up or something, or like, or distract her or something, like, just so that they can get this operation done without her folding it. So anyway, they go through, and then, they split up. Wahlberg's like on top, because like Wahlberg has to be on top on the street level, and they're like below in the sewers. And like I'm saying, the caves and the sewers could have been a little bit more interesting looking, maybe a little bit more skeletons and cobwebs, kind of like Goonies, like in that way, where it's like this, every turn you just don't know what you're getting into, and there's a different puzzle every time. And like with this, it's just like, it's like, where do we stick the key? Like that's basically the complexity of most of these puzzles. It's like, okay, where are we supposed to stick the key next? Oh, in here. Oh, boom. Okay, wait, do we turn it left or right? Like, it's like, ugh, as compared to like Goonies and Indiana Jones, where you have the invisible walkway in Last Crusade, and even something as simple as the ball rolling down, or the one in Goonies where they have to do the certain patterns and things to open doors, and use their gadgets and use their wits. Like, I wish there was more of that in this film, and that's kind of what I mean by the magic of it. There isn't any like. It's just like, where do we stick the key? It's like, I don't know. It could have been a lot more interesting, is my point. And that's kind of what I was getting at earlier. It was hard for me to kind of contextualize it, without spoiling it, but now I can. So it's like, yeah, it's like, can't we think of something better than like, oh, stick the key here, stick the key there, stick the key. Like, it's like, ugh. Anyway, so they're going through this thing, and then they go into this nightclub and they're dancing, and you get this little sequence where the bad guys show up, and I was like, okay, why are the bad guys how do they know where they are? Luckily, they cover that up, because, you find out that Chloe's, feeding them the location. So that was checked off. I was happy about that. That's a plot hole filled. Thank goodness. But anyway, Tom Holland uses his bartending skills to distract. I'm sorry, I keep saying Tom Holland. Nathan Drake uses his skills as a bartender to distract them and blows the alcohol fire in their face. Basically the Scottish guy and the other dude are just there to be punching bags for the whole film. They have nothing. But yeah, so they're running, and then they get into this thing and they have to get back up. Basically they get stuck in this little hole, and it starts filling up with water in another scene, which honestly, this was probably my favorite sequence in the whole film. Basically, Chloe and Nathan Drake are stuck in this hole, and it starts filling up with water, and they have their key in the hole that they need to have it at, but Mark Wahlberg needs to have his key in his hole in order to open it up for them. So like, he's trying to find the hole, and then he finds it in some Papa John's, which I was like, come on, you can't think of a better location than Papa John's. You're in friggin' Spain. There's tons of historical architecture and old buildings and places you could have used, and you use a Papa John's with a glass wall in front of it. It's like, oh my goodness, dude. They just picked the worst avenue every time for the set design, and it's awful. The set design and the dialogue are both, they bring this movie below a 3, and we'll sorry, a little bit of a spoiler there, but they hurt this movie, man. They did. They really hurt this movie for me, because like I said, there is a great film here. But anyway, so Mark Wahlberg he's trying to break open the glass wall, and then Braddock shows up, and they get in a little fight, which is, kind of interesting. And I like how the tension there with the water filling up. Anytime a character's stuck in something and they're drowning, always adds good tension. And I kind of wish that, Chloe, instead of Chloe and Nathan Drake being stuck in a hole like that, I wish it was Nathan and Sam at the beginning of the film, and that was the opening sequence. Like something like that, where they like go into a well trying to find something and then get stuck, and it starts filling up, and they have to work together to get out. Because then you kind of feel that bond start to grow, so that when Sam leaves for whatever reason, then, you have more emotional weight there, because they went through, you got to see them go through something. Because like, Sam, he's the whole entire pillar of Nathan Drake's character and his arc throughout the film. And you don't really feel that as much as you should, because they don't really set it up at all. They give you one scene where they, talk together as kids, and then that's it, and it's like, at least have them do something. That's my point. But yeah, that's probably the best scene in the whole movie, in my opinion. I thought that was really well done, outside of the Papa John's thing, which I think is inexcusably dumb product placement. Anyway, then they get out, and then they go, and basically they realize that they're able to get into the to the room they're supposed to get in. Wahlberg is like, there is actually kind of a funny scene where he's like, I'm not going to give you guys the key because you're going to screw me over. And they're like, no, we're not. And then he drops it down anyway, and they're able to use both the keys to get into the room where they're supposed to get all the gold. So they go in there and they find the big urns, and they're like, oh my goodness, like, let's get the gold. And they open it up, and they realize it's just salt. And nice little imagery there, because it's a really salty moment for Nathan Drake, because in there they're able to find a map where it shows that, oh wait, the gold never was brought back to Barcelona, because they originally thought that the gold was brought back to Barcelona by Magellan's crew, that they brought it back and stored it somewhere underground in Barcelona. Well, they realized, wait a minute, no, that's just where the map to it is, and it's actually in the Philippines. That's where the gold is. So they're like, oh, well, at least we know where it is. And as soon as they're about to go, Chloe turns on Nathan Drake, pistol whips him, and takes the map, and leaves Nathan looking like an idiot. Yeah, really cool, actually. I actually really liked the twist there. I thought that was really, and like I said, Chloe is actually a really interesting character. She's probably one of the most interesting characters in this film. But so, you get that, and yeah, then basically they're like, okay, well, at least we know we got to go to Philippines. They go, and Chloe basically teams up with Antonio Banderas, because, you find out that she's basically been an informant for him the whole time, and he admits, yeah, I paid her. But the thing I liked about Antonio Banderas, I forgot to mention this earlier. There is a couple of scenes with him and his father where his father's trying to sell all their riches and get out of this, and he's like, no, I want to find the gold, and there's a conflict, and then he ends up killing his own father. And I'm like, okay, well, this is interesting because Antonio Banderas is actually becoming a pretty interesting villain here because he actually has, a real stake in the game for why he wants this. He feels like his family is owed this money, and he's frustrated that his father won't go along with this, so he ends up killing his father so that he can just take over the operation, which I thought was really an interesting little twist there in the first act. But anyway, then you find out that he's basically got Braddock, the tattoo girl, and Chloe, both of them on payroll, and they're going after this thing. So he's on the plane. They're on the plane flying to the Philippines, and Mark Wahlberg and Sully and Nathan Drake sneak on the plane. They're going basically. There's some other stuff that happens. I'm just trying to remember it off the top of my head because there isn't a synopsis on here. But anyway, they basically. Sully, Nathan Drake's like, okay, what happened to my brother? Like, is he dead? And basically Sully's like, yeah, he's dead. But, you still got to help me. And he's like, okay, well, I'll do it just because my brother wants me to do it. He wants this mystery to be solved. So I'm going to solve it for him, not for you, not for the money. So they end up going and they end up sneaking on the plane now with Antonio Banderas. And then that's when, Banderas has this like little speech, and then Braddock comes and slices his neck and he dies. And you're like, okay, so, we built up this character and now he's gone. Like, and I'm fine when movies do this because this is not the first movie that's done this kind of thing where they like have a big baddie and then he gets killed and then the second in command takes over. Like, we've seen this done in other films, but I guess the problem I have with it in this movie is that like Braddock as a character doesn't get enough, actual fleshing out for her to have skin in the game. You know what I mean? Like, she doesn't have the same, motivation that Banderas had that they built up. So when he's dead, it's like, you just don't really understand why she's even here, outside for the money. I wish there was just more motivation behind her character. I wish she had more to do. Because, if you're going to set her up to be the overarching villain, really give us that. And I wish there was like kind of like, you kind of see it where, she gets demoted and Chloe gets promoted because she helps Banderas more. I wish they kind of would have leaned into that more where she gets kind of jealous that she's getting it outed out. And then that's what causes her to assassinate him. Because it's just like, that's just not as earned as it could have been. And it kind of destroys this character of Braddock, who could have been an interesting villain. But again, she just doesn't get enough screen time, enough dialogue, enough anything really for you to be all that concerned with her motivations as a villain. So that was kind of a letdown. You get, so she basically takes control, and then Nathan Drake, like, they're about to, like, they have all this cargo because they're about to go there and basically use all of it to get the pirate ships and get all the gold. So, they're flying to the Philippines and they're on there, and then basically Nathan Drake is like, he just kind of pops out and goes, "Did you kill my brother?" And then like the whole shootout happens and the back hatch opens up and the cargo starts flying out. And then you get the big scene from the trailer, where he's hanging out of the plane and the whole deal. So it's like, and the scene you get at the beginning of the film as well is there. So it's like, I guess my thing with it is like, why is he asking? Because it's like they have the map. Like, Mark Wahlberg's able to easily walk in there and steal the map, which, again, how is nobody guarding the map? Even though, I guess they're on a plane, so they're figuring nobody else is there. But even so, like, how did everybody just leave that room so that Nathan Drake and Sully could just go in there and take the map? Because that's exactly what happens. Like, Drake and Sully go in there, take the map, and they're about to leave. They get their parachute. Actually, I don't think Drake gets his parachute, but Sully gets his parachute, and he has the map. And basically, they're like, he's like, hey, like, let's get out of here. Let's jump ship. And basically, Drake is like, hey, he screams out to Brad and goes, hey, did you kill my brother? Which is like, why would you ask that in this situation? Because you already know the answer. Sully told you he did. So it's like, come on, what's the deal here? So, so basically that the whole shootout happens. The hatch opens up, the big action sequence, which I thought was pretty entertaining. Then, stuff happens. Chloe's there. She escapes in the car. She drives out, and as she's driving out, Drake finally gets back on the plane, and then as soon as he gets on the plane, she just drills him with the car, and they both fall off. And this was one of the silliest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, Drake is falling out of the plane in the sky and, like, lands on the hood of the car and is, like, just, like, perfectly sitting on the hood, and then, like, Chloe, like, opens the door or the window or whatever and they literally have a conversation as they're falling like 30,000 feet in the air. And I'm just like, really? I mean, it's like, I get that this is, yeah, I get it. Indiana Jones, the raft thing, sure, that was silly. But I mean, dude, dialogue while you're falling, how could you even hear somebody when you're falling at that speed, let alone be, what the hell? But anyway, they end up getting out of the car and landing on the giant cargo thing and pulling the ripcord on that and using that as a parachute to land in the water. They end up swimming back to land. How do they not get eaten by sharks? And that's what I was hoping. When they were sitting on the big cargo thing in the middle of the ocean, I was like, please have sharks show up. That'd be really cool. But they don't. They're able to get back to the beach, and they get this really corny moment with this dude sitting on the beach chair, and he goes, hey, where'd you guys come from? They're like, well, we fell out of a car that fell out of a plane and fell into the ocean. He's like, oh, I did something like that once, so good luck. And you're just like, why? Why did we waste 20 seconds on that? That was and then, like, dumb jokes like that, just, it kills it, man. It kills the mood. So they end up going, and basically, Drake has to use these letters that Sam, his brother, wrote him to kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together to figure out where the treasure is. Because I guess Sam knew where the treasure was, just I guess he couldn't get his hands on the keys. But again, why do you need the keys if you know the treasure's not in Barcelona to begin with? Because they don't end up using the keys at any other point. I mean, the treasure ends up just being in a big cave anyway, so it's like, what's even the point of the keys outside of to get the map? But, like, if Sam already knows where it is, why would he need the map? You see where I'm going with this? Just stupid stuff like that. But yeah, it's like, just silly stuff like that. It makes no sense. But yeah, Drake, basically, him and Chloe are, staying in this little hotel, resort in the Philippines, and they're trying to figure out this whole thing, and they're trying to put the puzzle together. And basically, they kind of make amends because, she pistol whipped him in the face and stole the plans from him. So she kind of feels a little bit guilty about that, and they, have a little kumbaya moment. Then basically Drake, while she's asleep, figures out where the location is and writes the coordinates down on a sheet of paper and leaves it. And then he goes to sleep. She wakes up, takes the coordinates, and leaves him. And at that moment, you're like, ah, man, like, she played him dirty again. But no, Drake gave her fake coordinates, and he actually has the real ones in a bottle, which I thought was kind of a really cool little moment. A nice little sleight of hand. And again, that's one of the things I really liked about this movie was the fact that, everybody's just kind of out for themselves, except for Drake. He's like the only noble one out of all of them. Everybody's kind of out for themselves. Sully, Chloe, Banderas, Braddock, all those characters are all out for themselves, So it's like, I like how they're all, willing to kill each other and stab each other in the back to get the treasure. Like, I think that's just a really cool idea. It kind of reminds me of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World, only without the good humor and without the, grandiose of that film. Another great treasure hunting film. That does it right and does comedy right, where this film just comes off as really lame, but in that regard. But yeah. But I thought that was kind of a little sleight of hand that I thought was pretty cool from Nathan Drake, where he kind of leads her in the wrong direction on purpose, and then he ends up going, as you can see here on the clip. That's the cave that he goes in, because he has the coordinates, and he goes, and it's funny because like in this moment, he's like, he sent the bad guys to the wrong coordinates. He sends Braddock and all them to the wrong coordinates because he doesn't send them, but they assume that the treasure's in one place and it's not. It's actually in a different place. He's able to put the keys together. So I guess the keys do have an importance to finding the the treasure, because I was kind of complaining about that with Sam. Like, how did he know if he didn't have the keys? But he actually says, like, the keys are how you find the location. He, like, puts them together and then puts the ends together, and then that's how he finds out where it's at. Again, how would he know that if he didn't have both keys? I don't know. But yeah, he basically, Drake finds the location, like I said, and goes there. And as he's riding on the speedboat, because like in this moment, they kind of write themselves into a hole, like I said, because the bad guys, they know that they're in the wrong place. Chloe, she's sent to the wrong place. So it's like Drake's just got a clean shot at the gold at this point. So they're like, okay, how do we get the villains back involved in this? Well, they see him on the coast riding by on a speedboat, and Braddock notices him through her binoculars and goes, there he is, let's go follow him. And it's like, I was just watching that like, really? This is the best way we can think of getting the villains back involved in the story? It's like, why even send them in the wrong direction to begin with if you're just going to have them end up finding him just haphazardly driving by on a speedboat? Just thought that was silly. So he gets there, and then Sully shows up, and he's like, hey, let's do this thing. Like, we're here, we got the gold, and you get the cool shot. And I think this is like the most magical moment in the film is when you get that shot of the pirate ships and the gold. That was kind of a cool little moment when he stands up on the rock and sees the pirate ships. I thought that was a really cool moment. But Nathan Drake, I'm talking about. So he goes there and climbs into the pirate ships, and basically, Sully's there. He tracks him on his phone, which again, another thing with the phone tracking, which I thought was just completely silly. First of all, I can barely get service in my basement, let alone Sully being able to track the location of Nathan Drake and Chloe while they're like way underground in the sewer tunnels. Like, how is he able to connect? How do they even have service where he could connect them? Like, how can a satellite beam down and catch their phone to the point where they can connect it to him so he can find them at all times? Because like, and again, even in the Philippines, in the middle of nowhere in the Philippines, how is he in the middle in some cave in the Philippines? How is he able to find him using a phone? I can barely connect to send a text message with just my phone service, let alone in a foreign country. Have you ever been in a foreign country with your phone? It's literally impossible to use. Like, I went to Europe like 6 years ago and literally couldn't text a soul. I mean, it was a joke. And the fact that you would go to the Philippines and be in the middle of not even at the resort where they have Wi-Fi. You're literally out in the middle of the cliffs in a cave on the ocean, and you're able to find his location. I was just like, really? Okay, just dumb stuff like that where I was just like, come on, man, come on, movie. So anyway, they have all the gold, and Sully fills a little bag up with the gold, and they're about to take it and run. And then, the bad guys show up, and they show up, and they're like, all right, we're taking over. So they start, trying to find them. Sully and Drake hide, and then, basically, the bad guys show up, and they're about to take all the gold, and then, they start picking up the ships with helicopters, and they're flying them across the water, and you get these big action sequences where, again, Drake just knows how to fight perfectly. We've never seen him practice fighting. It's not like he was a fighter or anything before then. He was a bartender. So it's like, how does this bartender who has no experience doing any of this know all this stuff? I mean, I get that, I get how he can know all the history and maybe know how to read, different languages and all that. I wasn't that, it's a movie. I get it. And he's a history guy, and they kind of established that. So I was like, okay, I can take liberties with that. But the fighting and all that, it's like, you got to, at least with Indiana Jones, he wasn't the best skilled fighter. He wasn't swinging off stuff and hitting people, and he was just a grizzled guy that could throw a punch. But Holland just isn't that convincing to me in that regard when it came to the action sequences in this film. But especially with that final action sequence, it just wasn't that convincing. So, but I will say, I thought it was kind of cool though having the helicopters carry the boats. But basically, the film ends with, Sully makes a sacrifice. He sacrifices his gold to save Drake, and the helicopter, Braddock, basically falls off and falls into the water, and then the pirate ship falls on top of her, and then the other pirate ship explodes because it runs into a cliff, and basically they have no gold. The whole mission was kind of a bust in that regard, but they become good friends, I guess, and then then Drake reveals that he actually saved a few gold nuggets for him, and it wasn't a complete failed experiment, and they can go and be a little rich, I guess. And basically, the Filipino government takes over all of the pirate ships since they sunk in their waters. So that's the end of the film, and kind of giving my final thoughts on this. Wasn't that impressed with this film. I wasn't. I thought there was a great film in here. I want to play the games. Definitely at least the first one I will be doing in He Don't Game for sure at some point, and then I can kind of maybe give more of an expansive opinion on this. But I just wasn't really that impressed with this, to be completely honest. I really wish it was a little bit more exciting and had a little bit more emotional weight to it, especially with our villains. And I think they gave enough screen time to the villains. It just I think the Braddock character could have used a little bit more work and a little bit more motivation, especially a little bit more fleshing on her connection to killing, because basically it's implied that she kills Sam. She even says at the end of the film, say hi to your brother for me when she tries to kill him. And I wish there was a little bit more, animosity there. He's joking around with her, even though at points in the film, he gets really frustrated about his brother. And then at other times he's making jokes, and it's just the film is tonally all over the place. I thought the action was okay. Like I said, the production design was not good in this film, not exciting, not interesting, just pretty bland. I wish, but I thought Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland had some good chemistry. Like I said, Holland is charismatic. He can carry a film, but again, I just think the dialogue in this film is pretty cringe. I thought the story was actually really interesting, and I wish they would have dove more into the Magellan lore of it all, and really tied the pirate aspect into this film, and the exploration aspect into this film. But yeah, it could have been a lot better. That's my thing, and that's why I think I'm so disappointed with it, is that it could have been really exciting and really kind of breathe new life into this genre, which I love. I love the magic of this genre, and the historical context that this can have. And I think the historical context is there. It's just not explored enough. You really explore that through unlocking traps and unlocking things and learning more about the mystery of the whole thing. That's what you notice in Goonies. You learn more about One-Eye Willie and the pirates and why their ship is where it is, and you learn more about why the Ark of the Covenant is where it is. So when you get there, it has the weight attached to it. Because in this, it's just they're looking for gold, and that's that. And I mean, that's fine, but it's just give me more of why this matters to Sully and why this matters to Drake so much. It's I just wish that had more to it. But yeah, not a great film, not a horrible film, just kind of meh. And there are some things I really like in this movie. Like I said, the cutthroat aspect, pun intended, the cutthroat aspect of these characters, how they're willing to throw each other down to get to, to basically, succeed in their missions. But yeah, again, it could have been a lot better. That's my point. And yeah, it was okay. But, yeah, if I had to give this a grade, if I had to give this a grade, I'm going to go 2.9 out of 5 for Uncharted. Yeah, 2.9 out of 5. Couldn't quite get it to a 3. Like I said, I kind of spoiled a little bit earlier, but yeah, it couldn't get to a 3 just because the jokes, the tone of this film was so all over the place. I wish it would have taken itself maybe a little bit more seriously and really dove into the emotional weight of the whole thing. Because again, like I said, Drake, his whole character, arc, is so predicated on that relationship with his brother, and it's just not earned enough for me to really care about anything else that happens in the film. But again, I love the historical aspects of this movie. I love the treasure hunt aspects. I like Tom Holland and I like Mark Wahlberg a lot together. But again, it just, I wasn't all that impressed with what they had to offer here, and that's kind of a shame. But, because there is a great movie in here, and that's probably why I give it a 2.9. I just couldn't get it to a 3. I don't think I'll ever watch this again, if I'm being completely honest. I mean, it wasn't that long, which is good. But again, yeah, I wasn't that entertained with it. I was kind of ready to go with about an hour left in it. So, yeah, about halfway through it, I was getting kind of tired of it. So, that's my thoughts on Uncharted. But now let's hear everybody else's thoughts. We're going to do Reviewing the Reviews, a segment we haven't done in some time. So, let's do it. Reviewing the reviews for Uncharted. Let's start with the 1 stars. Trash. Trash as his acting. Stop casting him in every goddamn movie, Sony. You just ruined the best video game series in the history by making this trash movie. This movie is terrible. Then Justice League 2017. Please don't waste your money on this stupid movie. Great insight. One of the worst movies of the past 10 years. Miscast, okay, action, and a very weak script make this film. I highly suggest you look the other way. What were they thinking casting Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg as the leads? Heck, I would have accepted Morgan Freeman as Sully and Channing Tatum as Drake. This is an obvious cash grab at its worst. Hopefully it flops, any future sequels canceled. Yeah, I don't know about Morgan Freeman and Channing Tatum being cast in those roles, but again, I kind of agree. Maybe I think they may have been a little miscast, but again, I haven't played the game, so I don't have that much frame of reference. And I guess they're probably thinking we'll cast him young and make like 20 of these movies, but depending on how this does, I don't know. One word: preposterous. Uncharted is so over the top and preposterous that even a suspension of disbelief will not save this movie. Way too much CGI, and the action scenes are not put together well. It tries to establish a plot in the beginning, but it's obvious it's trying to rip off Indiana Jones and the Goonies. Yeah, that's exactly why I was bringing those two movies up, I guess, the whole time is, they definitely try to rip that off, but it just doesn't have the movie has no charm, no wit, no soul. 100% agree with this. Hollywood action movies are dead. Yeah. Everyone follows the Fast and Furious model of dumb action movie, and I'm getting tired of it. Even the video games have better plots. Skip it even if you played all the games like I did. Here's another 2 star. Not for the fans. If you've never played this game, if you never played the games, I guess you'd find enjoyment out of it. Yeah, I never played the games, and I mean, but as an Uncharted fan, this movie is nothing like the game. Tom and Mark were completely miscasted as Nate and Sully, especially Mark Wahlberg as Sully. He's just playing himself. I agree with this, actually. I do. Mark Wahlberg is playing himself in this movie, no doubt about it. Holland tried, but he's just not Nathan Drake. If this movie wasn't called Uncharted, it'd just be generic, ridiculous action movie. Also, the villain was terrible. Yeah, like I said, the villains could have used more work. I mean, at least they got screen time, which is why I'm not dogging it too much. But again, yeah, I agree. This could have had more to it. All right, let's go to 3 stars. Unentertaining. These are the type of films that make me want to give up on my Cineworld card that I've had for 16 years. Fast and Furious style nonsense that bores me to sleep, literally. Dumb and stupid, but not in a good way, and way too long. I hope they're not planning on starting a new franchise because they'll lose millions, and deservedly so. Yeah, a lot of people are calling this a Fast and Furious style, and I kind of agree. It wasn't very exciting. Here we go. Trash adaptation by Hollywood again. Completely ruined the movie with the cast, and then the cheap jokes that 7-year-olds will like. Nice. I agree with this. I totally agree with this. The jokes were so bad in this movie. So bad. And they destroy the tone. While the game content included gunshots to the head, human sacrifice, etc. Again, I haven't played those games, so I can't speak on it. And that's probably why I like this maybe more than the diehard fans of the game. Because I did give it a 2.9. Like, it's pretty close to a 3. And that's just because I thought it was halfway entertaining. But again, I do think it's a really flawed movie, which is why I'm not giving it much higher than that. I couldn't get it to a 3. This is something I hate when Hollywood decides to make an adaptation that originally was for old teens, young adults, for children. The rating of this movie is now 7. Wait till people who played the game votes. It will go down to 4 or 5, just like Matrix 4 did. Yeah, Matrix 4 was a mess. All right, let's go to 4 stars. Uncharted. Oh, wait, that one's a little too long. Here we go. Terrible casting, even worse adaptation. Well, Tom Holland doesn't look nor sound like Nathan Drake, so from the start, first strike, even worse. Mark Wahlberg as Sully is even worse casting. The only enjoyable casting was Chloe. She looked pretty hot and was great in her role. Agreed. Seemed like they wanted to mix and match all Uncharted games in one movie, yet again, that fails. I really hope they stop this one and not turn the series into a 4 or 5 movies. I agree. They don't need to make another one of these. I totally agree with that. They don't need to make another one of these. Modern Indiana Jones. Movie was good, but not that good. Feels like Holland forced to do a character. Feels like a children's movie. There's too much drama. It doesn't feel realistic at all. You can enjoy it in the free time, but don't expect too much. He said he enjoyed the movie. It was a 4-star rating. Wow. Here we go. Kind of lame. Obvious CGI, plot holes, and lack of character depth made Uncharted fall in the kind of lame category. Some funny moments between Wahlberg and Holland and decent sets. It was just too unbelievable. Chart a course for better waters. Bad casting and a lackluster script create an average movie. The Nathan Drake Sully relationship is completely warped and actually takes away from the film. Chloe wasn't even needed since her character is a wooden caricature of the game version. All this untrust between main characters created a group of characters that you could care less about. I kind of agree with that. But I actually do like that. I like the untrust aspect of it, honestly. The movie missed the father-son type relationship that Drake and Sully should have had. Yeah, I haven't played the game, so I can't speak on that, but that kind of makes sense. Maybe Wahlberg was a little too young for this role. Here we go. Lower expectations as it's underwhelming. One word, underwhelming. About a week ago, I posted about how I am only just played my first Uncharted game, and it was the 4th one. Playing the game got me so hyped for this movie. I was hoping bad scores and reviews I was seeing were lies. Unfortunately, they weren't. Oh, wow, this is a long one. Never mind. But yeah, you get the point. Perfect popcorn movie. Uncharted is the perfect popcorn cinema movie when you just want to turn off your brain, ignore the constructed plot and numerous plot holes, and just have fun with your friends in cinema on a relaxed evening. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it, honestly. A lot of plot holes, which I pointed out, including the cell phone thing, which I just thought was so ridiculously stupid. Like, just because you make the plot hole a butt end of a joke does not make it any less of a plot hole. If you want a good movie, you are wrong with this one. If you want a realistic movie, you are wrong with this one. Yeah, I agree. So many suspension of disbelief in this movie. If a constructed plot with plot holes bothers you, you are wrong for this one. But if you want a fast, light movie to have fun with, you're absolutely right with this movie. Let's go to 7s. Here we go. Really fun. Uncharted was by no means a smart film, but a really fun movie that's fast-paced and consistently exciting, whilst also being somewhat faithful to the source material. I agree with this. The pacing in this movie was actually not bad. Like, I don't think the person that said this movie was too long, I kind of disagree with. I thought the movie was pretty well paced, honestly. I didn't think it dragged too much, but again, I did kind of get bored at times. Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg do not embody their video game counterparts. However, they still give likable and charismatic performances with solid chemistry. Yeah, I mean, probably so. Like I said, I haven't played the games. Sophia Ali was great as Chloe Fraser and definitely comes closest to her character overall. Cool. Yeah, I agree. Chloe was really an interesting character. Ruben Fleischer's direction is really good. Action sequences are completely shot and sufficient energy, with visually slick overall. The CGI mostly impressive, and the music by Ramin Djawadi is also great, fitting the film extremely well. Uses iconic themes. I wasn't that big on this score, and I like Ramin Djawadi. I mean, he did amazing work on Westworld. He did amazing work on Game of Thrones, but this score was not great, in my opinion. I didn't love the score of this film. Here's another one. A lighthearted, enjoyable action adventure. A thoroughly enjoyable adventure with plenty of action, adventure. You said adventure twice. And acrobatic hijinks. The story is predictable and in a good balance of modern day and historical locations, although the villains aren't particularly interesting and the constant one-liners between the leads aren't particularly funny. Totally agree with that. Overall things kept light and good pacing, which makes for good, not particularly memorable entertainment. This is probably my favorite review so far. I totally agree with this. Let's go to 8s. Saw in 4D today, which was wildly intense, especially with the seat moving during the plane fight halfway in. I also saw this in the D box as well, and where the seat moves. And yeah, that was pretty cool, I would say. But again, it was not as exciting as watching like Star Wars or other movies. Anyway, Uncharted was quite enjoyable for what it was, except for a few parts. Otherwise, I loved it, and Tom Holland was perfect as Nathan Drake. Mark Wahlberg was decent. I've seen him be stronger in other roles. I love him in Pain and Gain. I was very happy to see a cameo of Nolan North on the beach. That was perfectly placed. I don't know who Nolan North is. Maybe he's somebody that has to do with the game. I don't know. I thought that was silly. Maybe that's because I don't know who Nolan North is. But anyway, I understand ones that bash Uncharted. If anything, the best experience is 4DX because it's like a roller coaster, or an IMAX format would be sufficient. Damn, I guess my review wasn't as appreciated, but it is a great movie. Fair enough. Trying to find one that's... Here we go. People trashing this movie because Holland and Wahlberg doesn't feel like their video game counterpart makes me doubt humanity. Wow. Dark. This is a good movie, nothing special, but really enjoyable, and both actors are great in the roles, just not great together. See, I kind of disagree. I think they were great together, but just not great for the roles. But, that's me. Y'all capping with these negative reviews. I have to read this one. This film is extremely entertaining with some great twists. There was one good twist, with the main actors putting... in a great performance. Special effects were as expected, great, even though they are not all that prevalent. Figured I'd have to see that one. Y'all capping. 9 stars. Here we go. Suspended a little disbelief and enjoyed this movie. I've never played the Uncharted games, but have seen how the character of Nathan Drake is drawn and thought Tom Holland would have been miscast. I would have picked actor Brett Dalton from Until Dawn for Drake, but Tom Holland really won me over. Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland really play off each other well and have a kind of odd couple-like feel to their characters. Has Nathan Drake and Victor Sullivan. Action scenes are pretty fun to watch, and the villains don't disappoint either. This movie is Indiana Jones-like adventure, so don't go in this film expecting anything realistic. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. One more. Pure popcorn cinema that is far better than I expected. Film was action-packed from the very start and had a nice change from the usual superhero stuff. Tom Holland has tons of charisma and obviously great at the physical action. Final 25 minutes have some superb pirate ship action, and kids will enjoy the hell out of it. Nothing too deep, but that's what popcorn cinema is all about. Gave huge mark due to me just having such a great time with these in these bleak times. Fair enough, man. All right, let's go to the 10s, and then we'll get on out of here. Fun adaptate. Wait, that one's a little long. Let's go for a shorter one. Here we go. I like the shorter ones because some people just write these big ass paragraphs, and I'm like, let me do the paragraphing. Anyway, Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg are fantastic together. 10 out of 10 here. Tom Holland and Mark Wahlberg are two great actors on their own, but put them together and you got yourself a masterpiece. Every second of this movie was action-packed. I highly recommend the movie for fans of the video game and fans of the actors. The movie has something for everyone. Fair enough, man. Oh, whoa. Better than Indiana Jones. This is a interesting take here. They released the movie here in KSA. What's KSA? Early on February 10th. So I went and booked my ticket immediately. Since I'm a big fan of treasure hunting movies, plus a big fan of the games, can't say I've watched a better treasure hunting movie before, as there are not too many. Enjoyable movie, does not deserve 10, but out of love of the concept, gave it that score. I recommend. We'll do one more. Well done. I played all the games. Listen, nothing can be on point 100%, but they did a great job, in my opinion, with a prequel movie for Uncharted. It was a great movie that did a good enough job connecting to the games, setting up a sequel to look forward to. I was impressed for sure. So yeah, the overall sentiment I think with this film is, people like how fast paced it is, and I agree. I think the pacing is probably why I gave this movie such a, high grade, I guess, even though I only gave it a 2.9 out of 5. The reason I think I did is because I just thought it was well paced, and I thought that, I didn't think the action was as bad as people are saying, but I get it. I think a lot of people are saying Wahlberg and Holland are, maybe miscast in the film, but do what they can with it and have good chemistry, and I kind of agree with that. I thought they had good chemistry, but again, I haven't played the game, so I can't really speak on how faithful of an adaptation this really is. People are saying this is a prequel to the game series, so yeah, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, that's all I got, man. Uncharted, it was okay. That's that's all I really got to say about it. I wish it was a little bit more exciting. Wish it had a little bit more depth to it, and I wish the production design was a lot better, and the casting was okay. So decent film, not great, but yeah, that's all I got, man. Thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for tuning in for another movie review. We're going to be doing one on The Batman coming up, and then I also have top 10 movies of 2021. Don't worry, I have not forgotten. We're finishing up that list. I just got to watch literally 3 or 4 more movies, and I'm there, man. So, and Gary, he's getting close too with his list, so we'll probably have that out early March. Early to mid-March. We just got to work on dates and work on time and all that, but we'll get it figured out. So that list is coming probably around Oscar season, maybe before, maybe after that, but somewhere in that area. Definitely before April, because I said I would do that last year. Definitely have it before April. Also, Heat on Game. There's actually a new episode out of Heat on Game that I shot this morning that I finally got uploaded. So that's out, and so much more to come with that. More movie reviews like this, especially with the summer season ramping up. I know I said I was going to do more, but again, there wasn't really anything coming out. I mean, Scream, and I didn't really care about seeing that. I'd rather watch the original and review that. But Uncharted, it is what it is, man. Could have been a lot better. Could have been a lot worse. So, but thanks for watching, everybody. Much more to come from the podcast and beyond. TJPOD Live. See you later, explorers and adventurers. Uncharted.